Hey everybody, and welcome back to ToryTalks. This is the fourth week of the regular season in my season with the Indianapolis Colts. We're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this should be a pretty beady-uppy kind of game. The Jaguars are not really good, as is evidenced by that 2-yard kickoff return. Anyway, so today I want to talk about writing a really killer research paper. I just got finished teaching a couple weeks of senior English at the high school where I work, and they were working on research papers. And kind of the purpose of the paper was to find an area in the education of English, in English literature, that is relevant to some of the topics that they had discussed, to some of the books that they had read, and write a paper about it and argue a point. And for a lot of them, this is their first real kind of major research paper. And it's I got to remember this. It's hard for me. Yes, come on. I got to remember that, a 5 to 6 page research paper to a high school senior can be pretty intimidating. By the time you're a college senior, 5 to 6 pages is like the paper that you leave until the night before, because you're working on the 20-page paper. So those of you who are like, oh, I know how to write a paper, that's not that bad. Well, just consider this is for people who maybe have not written a lot of papers, or maybe you're in college and you're in a major where you don't write a lot of papers. I was a religion major, so I wrote papers all the time. That was just how it worked in my master's programs. The primary method of having my work graded and evaluated is through writing papers. Did I get it? No. So I've written lots of papers, several dozen, and I've kind of gotten it down to a science that works for me. It's not the same for everybody. Some people need a lot of flexibility, some people need very specific steps, but these steps kind of helped me, and I've got it down to the point where, I've got it down to the point where I can sit down and work on a paper and kind of do this process. So I want to share it with you, and I think it's really effective, and I think it can be used really well. So step one, well, kind of the pre-step, is find the conversation. What is your paper about? Find the conversation. And I had to tell my students a lot, like, oh, what a move. I had to tell them, why should anybody care? Why is this important? And not in like a mean-spirited, like, who cares kind of way, but in a, if you're going to write a paper, you might as well get something out of it, right? You've got to do it to pass the class or whatever. So make it something that you want to learn about. Make it something that's interesting and exciting to do. So find the conversation. Why is it important? Why should anybody care about this? What kind of information is out there to learn about this thing? And I think that once you start to ask those questions, one, that will keep you from writing a paper that you hate because you're just not interested. And two, it'll help you to write a paper that will be useful when you're an adult. How did he catch that? It'll be useful when you're an adult, or even right now, because you'll be able to go, oh yeah, I wrote that paper about stem cell research, and now I can have a meaningful, relevant conversation about stem cell research with somebody, or I can let it influence the way that I vote or think about public policy. So we don't just write papers to write papers. We write papers because they help us to learn about things. So find the conversation. What is the conversation that I'm trying to have with this thing that I'm doing? Yeah, big third nonstop. So the first step, and the first 4 steps are a part of the pre-writing phase. And pre-writing is really important because the more work you do in pre-writing, the easier the actual writing of the paper will be. So you want to put the work into the steps. Put 10 hours into the steps in different ways. That way, when you write the paper, it'll take 2 or 3 instead of 5 or 6. So your first step is collect. You're going to find your sources. What kinds of things are out there? Who's writing about this topic? Are they? Why does their opinion matter? Get it? Why are they an authority? Why is this an important thing to think about? So you want to collect your sources. You want to find things They're going to help prove your point, or maybe they're going to change your mind. Yes, go Darius Hayward Bay. Oh, you can't catch the football, but you sure can run. Look at that guy go. So, collect the information. Find the good stuff. There's stuff out there. One of the best tricks that I've ever learned about finding information, especially if you're like, man, I don't know where to look, or maybe you, if you're a college student, you should have access to EBSCOhost or Interlibrary Loan or a lot of like online databases and things that can help you get information that you won't just be able to find in a local library because it's a very academic source or there are only a few copies of it. But if you don't have that luxury, or maybe you're writing a paper where you're applying for a master's program or applying for some school and you're not currently in school, go to Wikipedia. And I'm not joking around. Yes, look at that defense. Go to Wikipedia and then find the information you like and then click the little source buttons and there are sources right there. Well-written Wikipedia articles, and there are tons of them, especially about big topics. Yeah. Ooh, LeVron Landry with a big fumble recovery. There are tons of things out there and people write them on Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a strong place to find sources because it's crowdsourced. There are tons of people who are really interested in those topics and they're all finding sources and pointing them at one focal point. So go look for sources there. Look for op-ed pieces. Look for NPR human interest pieces. Look for journal articles that have statistics. Oh, why did I not score? What was I doing? So you just got to collect information, and if it feels like it's close, keep it. File it away. Bookmark the page. Just make sure you know how to get it. Because your next step is to become literate in your topic. You don't have to narrow down everything into a thesis yet, but you need to be able to say, hey, what's your topic? Well, I'm writing about censorship as regards newspaper articles in the 19th century or something like that. And then, okay, great, you start collecting a lot of things, and then you find out that in the 1850s there were lots of people who, there were big groups that went and like burned down and destroyed printing presses that would print articles about abolition, and then a bunch of abolitionists would get really angry, so that they would find out a newspaper editor who ran a paper that was pro-slavery, and then they'd go burn it down, and that's a form of censorship. So find the information, find all the topics, don't limit yourself, and just read about it and know a lot about it. Because the more that you know, that's going to expand kind of your knowledge base, and that gives you, one, a greater margin of error when you're writing your thesis. You're like, oh man, this thesis doesn't really work, but I know a bunch of other stuff, so I can just kind of tweak it a little bit, and I won't have to do any extra work because I've already figured all this stuff out. I've already read about all this stuff. Become literate in your topic. Step 3 is to organize and stratify. And the example I used with my students was like, you know, a brontosaurus or something. What do I do here? I'm going for it. Here we go. So like a dinosaur, and it's under, you know, all these different layers that, you know, strata. And you got to get to the most important stuff, because, you know, in the first couple strata, it's only going to be just like time capsules that a 12-year-old buried and like petrified dog poop. But then once you get down, you're going to get to the good stuff, like the ancient civilizations and the dinosaurs and the Mesozoic era plants. So you want to kind of make some tiers of like really good, solid stuff, your stuff that's pretty close, and your stuff that doesn't really seem to fit, but it's still important for you in being literate about your topic. That's going to help you, one, if you have to change your thesis, you're going to have all this stuff organized, but two, when you write your paper, you're going to say, well, here are these sources, and I don't think I'm going to use them because I want to privilege these other ones because I think they say more, they support more about what I'm trying to say. Step 4, outline. Write a good outline. Yeah, boom. Write a good outline, because the better your outline, the easier the next step is, and we'll get there in a second, but your outline is going to include your thesis or a proto-thesis, kind of like the idea that you're working on. Your outline is going to include how you are going to kind of weave your sources together. It's going to include a space for talking about areas for further research, or maybe you want to say, like, here's a potential area of criticism for my thesis, and here's a response to it. You're anticipating someone's response to you and kind of nipping it in the bud. You're saying, well, this person might say that this thing is wrong, but here's this more information that says, okay, well, here's how I can respond well to that criticism. Oh! I ran out of bounds. So that's your outline. Those 4 steps, collect, become literate, organize and stratify, and outline, are your pre-writing. You are going to do these in order to, you want to put tons of work into these, because that's going to make the next 2 steps so easy and less stressful. Oh man, I have so many friends, and even me a couple times, who wouldn't privilege these steps and would just try to write a paper, you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning the day that it's due. And you can do that. I know people who have done it and they passed college. You know, C's get degrees is what they say. And for some people, that's important. I wanted more than that. I wanted to write a really good paper, and also I knew I was going to be moving on into a master's program eventually. So, man, Robert Mathis is a beast today. So I wanted to get good at the process of writing papers and write good papers that I was proud of and that I thought were strong. Oh, here he goes. Yeah, nobody's catching him. That was one of those, the computer decided that it wanted to try to win, and just, yeah. So, step 5 is the step of the writing process, plug and chug. And when I say plug and chug, I mean you're going to take your outline and you're literally just going to fill it in with writing. You're going to put into sentences the ideas that you've been doing up until this point. You're going to just make it in paragraph form and then take away the outline, and then there you go, you have a paper. And then you're going to proofread and edit. This is the process where, one, you're making sure that things are spelled right and you're doing all the, you know, things that you do with grammar and such. But ooh, yeah. Come on, catch me. That was fun. You're going to make your sentences work. You're going to make your paragraphs weave together. You're going to make it into a body. You're going to make it into a work. But you're also going to say, this source doesn't work, or maybe I need to cut this quote, or maybe I need to fix this sentence so that it works better with the information that I'm using to cite it. And there you go. You have a paper. It feels like a lengthy, involved process, but the more you do it, and the more you try to get into some kind of a routine with it, the easier it gets. I got to a point where I could write, you know, a strong A paper if I read the book. So typically in my master's program, I'll read a book, and the assignment will be integrate the topics from the textbook into the other text that we read. So I read the portions from the textbook, I read the book. That would be, you know, kind of my pre-writing phase, because as I'm doing it, I'm collecting the information. It's easy, it's right in front of me. I'm organizing it, so I'm maybe making notes in the book, or I'm putting post-its in there. I'm becoming literate in the topic because I'm actively reading. I'm looking to learn things from what I'm reading. And then I make an outline, and then I'm ready to write. And I could get outline, plug and chug, proofread, and edit done in 4 hours. And usually I'd do it a couple nights before the paper was due. I would do those last 3 steps. I would sleep on it. I would proofread it again. I'd maybe get somebody else to look at it, and then I'd turn it in. Haha, yeah, interception. So it's a good process. It's a good thing to learn if you're going to college, if you're going to grad school. Learn how to write a good research paper. But what's more, learn how to be literate in topics. Come on, come on, I want to score. Yeah. Yes. He's gonna score. Haha. So there it is. There's a big win over the Jaguars. There's you learning how to write a really good research paper, and you can do it. Research papers aren't hard. They're intimidating, but you can conquer them because they're known quantity, and you can put steps together and make it work. So that's it for this session of Tory Talks. Hope you learned a ton, and I hope you have a great life.